Okay, so I kind of want to go ahead and get back into more coverage over Batgirl. And the reason why, because I read a few more issues after the last video I had posted a while ago when it came to Batgirl. And after reading a few more issues, I'm kind of like, you know what? Yeah, I'm kind of liking the idea of the Batgirl series, especially when it comes to the second story arc, because the second story arc really does continue the idea of Batgirl evolving as a human, but really more as a child coming into the world like she was supposed to be and not being how she was when it came to her father. Let me explain in this video. Because I kind of want to go ahead and dive into the opening pages for issue number 4. Now, in the opening pages for the 4th issue, it's really more of Batman kind of telling us, the reader, and Alfred as well, that when he looked at Cassandra Cain, he called her perfect. Like, she was the perfect choice to become the next Batgirl. And it's not really him saying, oh, yeah, I chose her because the way she fought, though, how powerful she truly is, how easily she took those guys down. No, it's really more Batman saying she showed restraint because even though these guys that she was fighting against last night with Bruce Wayne were killers in so many different types of ways, that for Batgirl, she just did enough to take those bad guys out so that her and Batman would then be able to move on to their next mission for the night. It's Batman saying that she was gentle with them. And that right there means a lot for Batman. That for him is her showing that she has control over her emotions. But as we jump into the present day, we kind of get reminded about what happened in the last video. That for Batman, he had discovered this videotape, right? In this videotape, there's a young girl. And of course, he believes to be Cassandra Cain. It was Cassandra going out of her way, killing off a bunch of people, because we're also being reminded that when it came to David Cain, Cassandra's father, well, for David, what he did was he tried to train his daughter to become the next bodyguard for Ra's al Ghul. But the way he trained her was very unique. You see, instead of trying to teach her how to speak, it had to use words. That part of the brain that's usually used for speaking was actually trained for have her to read people's body language so that she knew what kind of movements they would do. And so in this videotape, it does seem like it's David, the father to Cassandra right now, just giving her another training session, and it's her just killing off a bunch of people. And for Batman, seeing her be this killer just breaks down everything he thought about her previously. Now for Alfred, he looks at the videotape. He's kind of like, this tape seems a tad bit fake. And really, speaking of Batgirl, for a brief moment, we do shift over to her, and she does live with Barbara Gordon, who's kind of training her, but also both women live in the clock tower that belongs to Batgirl. Now, with that being said, she's on the phone with Nightwing. And for Nightwing, he kind of wants to understand a better idea of Batgirl. The problem is that even though Cassandra has been living with Barbara for 3 months, she has not really been able to get a better idea of Cassandra. And so for Barbara, she's kind of listen, she's quiet, she doesn't speak, and she's always out all night with Batman and sleeps all day. It's really hard for me to build up a profile of this young girl. Now, Batgirl does wake up and she does go out for the night, which allows us to go back over to Batman. Because for Alfred, it's him informing Batman that he believes the videotape they're currently looking at is technically fake. And the reason why he is saying that, because for Alfred, he does kind of have a past when it comes to film. And so for him, he's like, yeah, man, listen, I ran the numbers, did a few tests, and it proves right now that this tape is technically fake. Someone's out there trying to make you believe, or somebody else possibly believe, that that was Cassandra Cain. But in reality, it's not. And for Batman, once he has Alfred kind of break things down for him, it helps Batman kind of rebuild what he had thought of Batgirl previously before he saw this videotape. Now I'm going to go ahead and put that whole idea of the video on the back burner and switch back over to Batgirl because this kind of begins her plot line in this storyline because you now have Batgirl going out of her way just out in Gotham trying to handle some business. She hears some shooting and you have Batgirl go out of her way to figure out what's going on. She sees somebody in danger and it's Batgirl showing us how great of a fighter she is. Now, once she does deal with the criminals, she then goes over to what could have been a victim, a dead victim. Now, when it comes to this guy, he's not like super important to the overall Batgirl series, but he does begins this process of Batgirl beginning to learn a language or language period. And let me explain, because for Batgirl, as we all know, she was trained by her father, David Cain. When it came to David Cain, he made sure to use the part of the brain that is technically used to help someone understand language when it's being spoken to. Well, instead of that part of the brain being used for that, it was used to look at someone's body language instead. And so for Cassandra, she never truly had the chance to understand like words. And so once you have this guy who is apparently a psychic, once he does go out of his way to clear her mind, she realized that one, every single time she thought in her head, it was her own voice, but also the idea that now she can communicate with him and understand what he is saying because one, he's currently using his powers to talk to her mind, but also like while they're talking with their minds, she can understand him. And he's kind of like, yeah, I looked into your mind. It did seem a tad bit crowded in there, and I kind of cleared some things up. And for Cassandra, this is great. Before we see how that truly develops, I want to go back over to Batman because for Batman, he's going to leave Gotham once again, like he always does. But the reason why he's going to leave Gotham now is because he realized he has a murder to solve. He sees in this video that people were killed off. And so for Batman, he realized if he's able to solve that murder case, it should lead him back over to whoever made the video that tried to destroy, well, the reputation of Cassandra Cain. But getting back over to Cassandra, we kind of see the after effect of when it came to this guy playing with her mind. Now, he didn't do it on purpose. He just realized that she was unable to communicate with him when he spoke to her, and he realized what was going on in her mind. But anyways, because when it came to David Cain, her father, just constantly playing with that part of her mind, over and over again. Well, with this guy clearing her mind out a tad bit, that body language that she had learned is slowly being replaced with actual language. Like it's her now getting to understand words. And the reason why that's so important because when another assassin appears, she's no longer truly able to protect herself from this other assassin because now she's not really able to read body language like she used to. Not completely off, but not where it used to be yet. And so she is defeated by this assassin. Now, once you do have Cassandra, almost said Barbara there, but once you do have Cassandra wake up in the second chapter, she is then surrounded by all these different, well, assassins that she had fought prior to having her mind messed with by our mysterious guy who has psychic abilities. Now, when it comes to Cassandra, she also begins to realize that yes, the ability to read other people's body language is no longer there for her like it used to be. And so now she's beginning to struggle. Now she is able to get away, but the problem is that it took a lot out of her. And some of the guys were able to land a few punches on her. Now, for Batman, as he does fly over to Macau, he does call up Tim Drake. And the reason why, because for Tim Drake, his goal for Batman was to look up information about Fazul, the guy who died in that video by the young girl that looked like Cassandra Cain. And so for Tim, he's kind of like, listen, dude, it was labeled that he died from a massive neck trauma, but that's really it. And for Tim, he's also saying like the different reports about his murder have gone, well, missing. Like, for example, his autopsy report has also gone missing as well. Now, for Tim, he kind of realized that if Batman had called up Tim and did not call up Oracle, that most likely means that the whole entire case has to do something with Cassandra. And technically, Tim is right. But for Batman, he wants to make sure that Tim does not realize that, yes, he is correct. And for Batman, he does go over to where the guy was technically buried. Now, when he does get there, Batman does find something, but we have to switch back over to, well, Cassandra. And so for Cassandra, she does go over to the clock tower. Now, when she does, she wants to celebrate the idea that now she has the ability to understand other words, to understand languages that are being spoke to her. The problem is that she still has to learn how to speak. And that right there is really important. You can know how to hear the words, understand the words, but there's a whole different skill level you need when it comes to speaking. And so when it comes to Barbara, unfortunately, her and Cassandra cannot speak. But it's also Cassandra saying, like, I need your help to fix this tracker. This tracker was used prior to with Akina her having her mind messed with. The assassins used the tracker to find that guy who had psychic abilities. And so now for Cassandra, she can use that tracker to find that guy to hopefully protect him, but to also kind of fix her mind back to where it used to be at. Now, for Batman, you do have Batman being able to find David King. Now, this is Bruce Wayne truly believing that when it comes to David, the reason why he wanted Batman to find that videotape is to begin the process of possibly removing Cassandra from Batman's life. And he's like, you're trying to take her away from me. But it's really more David saying, no, I'm not. And matter of fact, the reason why I'm telling you all of this, because for Cassandra, the reason why she may wear the Batgirl outfit is because of guilt. It's her right now trying to overcome everything she did in the past. No one is truly able to get over their first kill, kind of hinting at the idea of like, no, she had killed some people, and that video you saw, it wasn't fake. She killed the guy in everything. I want you to know that you took in a killer and you believe that she could possibly be something completely different, but she's not. She is a killer. But it's also him telling Batman like, hey, by the way, your new Batgirl is now being targeted by several assassins. And matter of fact, for Batgirl, we actually do see her find Ezra with the tracker that she had received earlier. Now, when she does find Ezra, she's then confronted by the assassin she was fighting against earlier that actually defeated her. And she is able to bring down this assassin, but not as quick and not as smooth as she would have done before Ezra had messed with her mind. And matter of fact, she asked him like, hey, can you put my mind back to its former state? And he's like, listen, I don't know much about my abilities, but I do know one thing for right now. I can't do that. So unfortunately, I can't really help you. Now, while you do have the two guys, or two characters, sorry, having their conversation, you did have Batman walk in and kind of like, hey, Batgirl and Ezra, we got a problem. Like, things are about to pop off very soon. Now, as we dive into the sixth issue of the storyline, it's really more Batman kind of finding out what's going on when it comes to Cassandra, because he sent Cassandra up to the surface level to kind of take out the different killers while Batman stays behind to watch over, well, this guy who has psychic abilities. And so you didn't have Batman ask a guy like, hey, what is your origin story? And the guy says, oh, like I was once taken in by some people, gave me some pills. I began to gain powers. Then I realized what they were trying to achieve. But also I learned that with my powers, I could read folks' mind, and I knew I had to get the heck out of there. And that's really it. Now, for Batman, it's kind of like, okay, that kind of sucks, but don't worry, we're well protected because Batgirl can take down almost any killers. And the guy says, oh, well, that killer right there who's knocked out, yeah, that killer knocked her out earlier at the very end of the first chapter of this storyline. And for Batman, it's kind of like, wait, what do you mean? Because for Batman, he has no idea that this guy had used his powers on the mind of Cassandra. And so once he does learn everything that's going on with Batgirl, he hears gunshots. And he's kind of wondering like, okay, is there a possibility that her fighting skills had officially dropped? If that's the case, that most likely means that she's having a hard time up there on her own. And so once you do have Batman go up to the surface, leaving the sewers, he does see that Batgirl was able to handle things on her own. Because yes, even though she's no longer truly able to read body language completely, she still knows how to fight. She still knows how to take guys down and protect herself. And so once you have Batman realize that, he gives her a task. And that task is really more Batman assigning Cassandra to go out of her way to find the doctor that had worked on this guy, where of course she's then able to find him, and Batman tells her, hey, bring him over to this cabin. Because now all the different killers out there will try to go after, well, Batgirl and Batman, who now have the guy with the abilities to read mind, but also the doctor as well, who's responsible for giving the guy his powers. But either way, you did have all these different assassins appear. Now, for Batgirl, she also realized that Batman is clearly outnumbered. And so her main goal is to go out of her way to help him out. Unfortunately, though, for Batgirl, she does take 4 shots, like 4 bullets, and she does pass out. Now, when she does wake back up, she wakes up in the Batcave, but also realizing that now she's confronted by, well, Batman and Leslie Tompkins, who is then able to patch her up. Now, for Batman, he wants to know, like, why in the world did you take those 4 bullets? And all she says is, well, instinct. And the story arc kind of ends on that note right there. So with that being said, guys, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.